All right. Well, here we are. It's another day, another podcast.
Friday this
uh,
time.
where I'm still working from my basement COVID dungeon. I don't know.
Man,
Just
I
my
bet like
office.
some of the most incredible man caves have been built like since COVID.
Oh,
I
I
swear.
bet.
I mean, mine is okay, but I swear it's like being stuck at home like
You gotta love where
75% of
you
the
work.
time. Yeah, I mean, I want
Hmm.
to see like I think we should do one on like man caves.
That'd be fun.
I think
I'd
it
be
would
down.
be. Hey, I'm like,
Yeah.
or even like have an interior decorator come in and like how to do your man cave, and
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
We actually have an interior decorator in our PNI, so
So I think
that's
we should get her on
definitely a
here
possibility.
and
Okay.
get her on and let's get her telling us guys and wives and girlfriends, like how to give your man like the best man cave. Like
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
I saw
So,
some of these really cool things where people would like pull up a I don't know it's a thing in the floor and then they lift a latch and this like refrigerated installment comes up with all these beers in it and it goes
oh
back
man,
down, stuff like
I,
that.
you know the problem is like we us being in Florida, we're limited as to what we like. Some of these cool things you can do because
No
you can't go
basements.
underground, like no
Yeah.
basements. I mean, so we're like so limited. It's not really even a man cave. I
Yeah.
call most of our stuff like a mandominium because it's usually like elevated in the air. It's not really
Yeah.
underground like a real man cave. But
Yeah.
anyway, we deal with it.
Yeah. I digress.
Yeah.
So we have a number of topics we can keep working through. Chris, what do you got for us today?
Oh man. I think we kind of decided on when is the right time to DIY, do it yourself.
Okay.
When do you need to hire somebody? When is it good? When
That's a
is it
great
like,
topic.
okay, I can do this myself. Because
It,
that's something that we run into a lot.
mm-hmm.
Um, Whereas, oh, I can do this myself. And you know what? What's crazy is that we encourage people to do a lot themselves or at
Yes.
least participate in what's going on.
Yep.
Just know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's okay. Just know when you need to hire somebody or partner with somebody or get the right partners on your side to get it done. So,
Yeah, so this is perfect because a lot of our clients or potential clients come to us when they're at that stage where they're they're growing and they're trying to scale. They know they need to invest more money into their marketing. They don't know quite where or how to go first or next, and they've been doing it a lot themselves. And then
right,
it's basically like the way I like to build my taco salads. They
right.
have a bunch of chips and layers, and it's all mashed up, and
Mhm.
that's how they've been doing it. But
Yeah,
to run it and run your business, you have to. I hate it. I hate to say this, but you kind of have to do like those old school lunchroom trays where like here's the section for your main portion. This is
yeah,
vegetables. This is dessert. This is side.
right,
And you kind of have to compartmentalize and
right.
know what's what. We talked about what's what, right?
What affects
Um,
what? Yeah,
what
yeah,
affects what? Yeah.
yeah,
And so I don't discourage them because they still need to be involved. Every company has like a personality or needs to have its own personality and brand as you go online, or all your print collaterals and everything needs to kind of line up with that brand voice cohesion.
right,
And so they still have to be a part of it, but they don't necessarily have to do all of it themselves. But
right.
for people who are interested in doing it all themselves, they kind of just need to know what the parts are and work their way through them. It's going to eat up time or money or
Right.
both.
Right. So, I mean, I think what's easy to do is to use like a relatable situation. And somebody that you're always talking about is Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Let's let him be our focal point for today
Okay.
because obviously, if you don't know who he is, I mean, he's a social media,
Google them.
I'm going to call it a
It's worth
content
it.
king, just a content king. I mean, because it's content,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just social media. I mean, he just has so much content.
Yeah.
A lot of his content is content on how he's helping other people build content. And it's like it goes crazy, right?
Yeah.
So let's just use him as an example.
Okay.
Obviously, he is the face behind his organizations.
Yes.
What you see is him putting out content, helping people develop content, that is his content.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not always the one. He's never doing
Doing the work.
doing the work.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we talk about as the leader of your organization, where whatever your title
Mm-hmm.
is, your role needs to be to set the strategic direction of the organization, put the planning together, make sure you have the right pieces in place to execute, but then you have to be able to hand some of that off to your trusted partners,
Yeah.
whether it's an employee, whether it's a vendor, a partner, whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be. But you should be the one setting that strategic vision. And in his case, he does something that we always talk about. He's participating in it. He's
Yes.
not just this Gary V, this organization, but then you never see him.
Yeah.
He's participating in the content, which makes it that much more powerful. And why is that important? Because now people are relating. He's a human being. You
Yeah.
hear about his struggle. You hear about how he built his empire through wine. You hear about his vision of wanting to buy the New York Jets one day.
Yep.
He's taking you on
Yeah.
this
You've been
journey
listening.
with him. Yeah, he takes you on this journey
Yeah.
with him, but he's not doing all the work himself.
He's not. And that's a great example. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that's what becomes really important. Is like take people on the journey, take them through your struggles, take them, that's your story,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have to be the one behind the camera all the time. You don't have to be the one building the website.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So that's a great example, and he falls in line with things like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and each of these are their whole company, their whole business presence is personality driven, right? It's highly individual personality driven. But then you also have companies like Wendy's that's personality driven, but company personality driven, and KFC and stuff like that. And they have like a persona, but the little redheaded Wendy's girl is not what I'm talking about. Their persona is that they troll. Man, I wonder if they were in like a board meeting when, sales were tanking several years ago and all their stores looked like dives, and they were like, well, we're going out, we're going to take up people with us or something because they started to troll anybody and everybody. They just started going after all the other restaurants, and it got to be so funny that people would go online and say, hey, troll me too, or here's a picture, troll this. And so they built a personality for their brand. Right. And I can't say that personality shift or presence is directly responsible for their comeback, but it's a good chance that it attracted the eye of investors or whatever they needed to get, because they're all remodeling. They all look great. They seem to be doing well. And so there's a key to it. So you've got Gary V and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and other brand individual personalities. And then you've got companies. And the company, anybody who owns a business that doesn't want to be an individually driven personality brand, they still have to understand
Chick-fil-A, right?
Yes, Chick-fil-A.
Use them.
You still have to understand your business needs that personality.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that's a perfect example, because obviously we talk about, let's say, a Gary V and The Rock. These are highly recognizable people, global. The CEO of Chick-fil-A, if he was I'll be honest, if he was walking down the street next to me, I probably would not recognize him or her, or whoever it is, but what I would recognize is that if I go to each individual Chick-fil-A location, they have built that identity because there is a consistency with their messaging, their brand, their food.
My pleasure,
things like that. So it becomes important to understand when you need to stand out and, hey, do it yourself or let people know what you stand for, or when you put those processes in place that can be duplicatable, that can now resonate, wherever your brand is present.
And so the question of DIY kind of starts there. It starts with, do you understand how your brand's personality is driven, what it needs to look like, and how to maintain it? And then if you do, then it's about putting together the pieces of content, whether that's in print, digital, social media, video, any of these kinds of things that reinforce that brand personality and keep it living. And if you can do that yourself, going live, being over here, graphics support, all these types of messaging outlets and opportunities, then do it. And if you can't, then figure out what you can do and either scale back and be consistent, do it small, or do more but leverage partnerships like what you said, where you do a certain part of it that's key, and then you can hire somebody or work with somebody or use somebody from within to do the rest, where they can manage the posting in this and some other moving pieces, because there's a lot.
And that, it becomes important because, I mean, your content, that's fine. You put it out there, people, resonate with it. But where it becomes, there's always a point of diminishing returns.
Yes.
Because if you're a business, and I have to kind of separate this from just an individual, but if you're a business that relies on social media or online engagement, and you're putting the content out there, and people are engaging with you, but let's say you're that CEO or that marketing director who's trying to do it themselves.
Yes.
There comes a point of diminishing returns where either you're online all day responding to people, or you're outrunning your business, because there's only so many hours in a day.
Yep.
I mean, the customer expectations don't change. And now a lot of these sites, obviously Facebook, they will tell you how long it takes for someone to respond. If your average response time, response time is 2 days, that hurts you. That hurts you. So would you be better to say, okay, let me just pile myself up so full and take 2 days to respond? Or should I continue to set that strategic direction for the organization and bring somebody in who can keep that engagement going while I'm pumping out new content?
Yeah, so that brings up another
it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, that brings some other caveat to the balance, which is, what social media platforms do you need to be on? Because if you're doing it yourself, you can't be on all of them, because customers
be effective. That's the key.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it would be wrong to assume that you're the only person they're going to ask this question to if they have a question, right? Like, if I'm looking for the perfect beard trimmer, I might say, does it use 70% ethanol oil or whatever? I don't know. I made that up. But you're not the only beard trimmer company I'm asking that question to. The one with the quickest response is probably going to get my business, because they seem to be on point. And if I have a concern in the future, they're going to reply to me. So if you're on Twitter, but you don't manage it because you really manage Facebook, and you're getting messages over there and you're ghosting people because you don't check it but once every couple of days,
right?
You might as well be off of it, because you're ruining reputation over there versus building it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think, not trying to go too deep, but I think I kind of touched on this. Me and you were talking about it, but outside of this is kind of outside of the DIY versus hire somebody, but understanding what the requirements are for business today. Okay, and me and you were talking about this. I think the first requirement that every business will say is, how am I using technology?
Yep.
And it's not just because of the technology that it impacts you. It's because your clients or your customers are going to require it.
Yep.
They require it. It's not even 5 years ago. It was okay. Well, if you were coming, no, it's a requirement now. You can't work without it. So at my tech company that provides good service, okay, your good service is, are you responding to people?
Yep.
Are you engaging with them? And then the third part of it is that provides this service. And I've been thinking about that because for example, how that would apply to our business. We're a tech company that prides ourselves on, exceptional customer service that helps clients with marketing, for example. So that can be translatable to any industry. And I think lead with the tech, make sure there's a human element behind it, and a value proposition tied to something else at the end.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes so important to all companies. That will help you determine, when do I need to do stuff myself? Am I a tech person? Can I do the tech myself?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then
honestly,
right then you need to bring somebody on.
Yeah, and there's so much to the tech part that people don't realize until they start to do it, and then they realize, oh, my lighting is bad. Oh, my sound is bad. Oh, I didn't realize I have to secure a venue and like, what's the word, get it paid for it and blocked off and have the rights to shoot in it and video release forms. Why? I have to use video release? I mean, that's just video. That's not even all the other, litany of things that go into just getting one piece of content together.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think this conversation, I think this is a good intro to the conversation about DIY, because there's a lot of tools and stuff that we didn't really touch on that people can use DIY, and there's a whole other there's so many other ways to practically go about this conversation. I think this is a good way to intro it.
Let's talk about one thing, and I want to talk about one thing that always is going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
What the one thing that people are always going to talk about? Well, okay. I can't afford, or I don't have the time to. Those are things that we get it. I mean, I hear that. One of the things we always ask our customers, hey, let us know your budget, and we'll try.
Yeah.
Well, I don't it starts there. It's like, look, that goes to part of being the leader. Setting your strategic plan includes having some sort of budgetary or some financial projections. That's why we tell people, look, know when to do stuff yourself and know when to hire.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that you're not going to be able to bring an outside person in, and they're going to understand your business well enough to do it for you.
Right.
That's why you're the business owner, leader, whatever your role is. You need to be doing that, and you manage the resources being money, people, time, to accomplish whatever that strategic direction is. So we always hear, well, how much is it going to cost? Well, I don't have the money. Well,
it's going to cost you more not to.
There you go. And you need to have those things built into, and here's what, and we don't have to dive too deep into this today, but your time in your business, there is a cost to it. It's never free.
Yes.
When you're saying I'm doing it myself, your time doing whatever
that doesn't mean it's free.
It's not free. Because that's an hour or 2 hours away from doing something else that could be leading the strategic direction to growing that business. Not to say this is not important.
Yeah.
But, the biggest thing that if anyone takes anything away from this, your time is not free. Your time is never free in your business. I mean,
no.
It's a trade-off for something else. But your time is never free. So when you say, hey, I can do it myself. It's free. I'm not having to pay anybody.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's costing you something. And I think one of the things that people fail to do is what is an hour of your time worth? Right. If I ask the average person, hey, what's an hour of your time? Well, I don't know. You should know that.
Yeah.
Because now you know when it's affordable for me to do something myself versus when I need to bring somebody else in.
Yeah. That, and it makes me think of when I said you can't afford not to. Yeah. What I mean is you can't afford not to do it and take it seriously. Yeah. So whatever level it's done at, it needs to be done well because it represents your company, your brand. Somebody asked me recently about something else, but I think it applies to this. We were in a networking group and they were applying this kind of analogy to it. And they were saying, if you don't do all the things for accountability, how do you expect people to trust you and work with you? And they basically said, imagine needing a brain surgeon and then there's a couple of them here. Which one are you going to pick? The one who did half the things, some of the things, or all the things? And obviously, I'm going to go with the one who picked all the things because their attention to detail, they show the care, they show respect for themselves, they show an interest in understanding the relationship that they have with others and the accountability. And the same thing is true of your online presence or your company's presence in your marketing.
Right.
It's not just about being seen, being visible. It's about how you're seen and how you're visible. And if you do half the things, it shows. I see people who are small businesses and they're like, hey, look, I made this flyer and I did it myself. What do you think? And I don't have the heart sometimes to tell them this is terrible.
Right. But that was the first, again, that's the first impression.
Right. So I'm like, well, good for you. You did your best. And I try to be positive. But to be honest with you, I look at it and I'm like, oh, I would never produce something like this for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to give them that feedback. And when it comes to DIY versus doing it with help, you've got to do it right. And you have to know what that means. And if you don't live in the space with the expertise to know all that, then you got to leverage someone else's expertise.
Absolutely.
Even if you're still going to do it yourself, you still need to get their expertise. And Absolutely. I think that's what I really was meaning by you can't afford not to.
Like, I can't even follow up with that. Like, we just need to end it there because, okay. Like, you know, there's nothing else that needs to be said after that. So, like, that'll just be me talking over you at that point. So, you know, so yeah, like if you could cut the first 28 minutes, just play the last that part, and then we can just I can exit stage left today because I'm not in my car. So.
Well, I think this is a good introduction to the topic. As I was listening, I'm like, we could go 3 or 4 more different directions with this, and I think we should. So we'll potentially log those for the future, but for today, I think that's a good start to the conversation, and we can exit stage left, which is my left. That way. This way.
All right, man.
All right, brother.
Talk to you later.